What is happening, my good people? It is a Friday, and this one goes out to people who have listened to the podcast that I released yesterday, and this is a big mea culpa. It's an I'm sorry to those who had to listen to my World Series preview between the Arizona Diamondbacks and Texas Rangers, which starts in about a couple hours. So I've been contemplating this all day, and I figured, why not post this now, share it to those who did listen to the podcast. If you didn't, that's okay, but you know what? Maybe you could go back, listen to it now, or at least start to listen to it, and then come back to here and then get a chance to see why I'm apologizing and recording, and we'll post this video on my YouTube channel. So with that being said, yesterday I felt like I cheated you guys and gals out of a World Series preview where the Diamondbacks, as we all know, 84 wins, remarkable job against the Phillies there in Game 6 and 7 on the road, and same for the Texas Rangers, who had to come from a Game 5 devastating loss, Jose Altuve, the home run in the ninth inning, where they had to win the 2 games in Houston in order to propel them to get to a World Series for the first time in a dozen years, which I did post on the podcast yesterday. But here's what I didn't really get to. When it comes to both of these teams on a whole, where we have the Diamondbacks, again, 84 wins, not a lot of star power. I get it. Corbin Carroll could be a guy that a lot of people will rally around. But when we look at the lineup there, pretty much from top to bottom, there isn't a guy, other than Ketel Marte, I get it, he was the MVP of the NLCS. But again, you do not have the star power a la the Texas Rangers, whether it's Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, of course, Adolis Garcia, where on a day-in, day-out basis, if you don't know the Diamondbacks, yeah, chances are you probably couldn't pick them out of a lineup. So we know they're offensively challenged. Their pitching is pretty good. They have a very good bullpen, as you saw there in Philadelphia, Game 6 and 7. But with Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly and Brandon Pfaadt, who pitched very well in the LCS. But again, not really standout starting pitching, which maybe you can't really say for the Texas Rangers because they have a guy in Nathan Eovaldi who's been around the block, who's won World Series, who's pitched in big games. Jordan Montgomery, who's had a renaissance ever since he left the Yankees. Not to say he's Steve Carlton, but at the same time, certainly an upgrade. And then you have Max Scherzer, who's the wild card in all this, a guy that they brought in from the Mets to see if he could be that ace, the guy who's been around the block and knows what it takes to win a World Series, as he did so in Washington back in 2019. But with all that being said, who has the advantage? Who's the hot team coming in? We both know that the Rangers and the Diamondbacks have won their final 2 games on the road, which is the first time it's happened in League Championship Series history. So it's not as if a team, both performing in Game 7s, winning those games on the road, you can't really say this team has an advantage or that team has an advantage. As of right this second, you could pretty much call it a coin flip or a toss-up as to who's going to be the team that may come out on top. And forgive the background here. I wish I had a green screen to give you a little bit more of a feel. But this isn't going to take much longer. So with that being said, we could look at the bullpen of the Diamondbacks as being very solid, maybe a little bit better. Although Jose Leclerc, the closer of the Rangers, has shown, other than Game 5 against the Astros in the LCS, a guy that could go in there and shut down the opposing lineup, or let's say the meat of an order when you get to the 8th and 9th inning. But how I look at it is, and I said this on the podcast yesterday, we could talk about the pluses, the minuses, the lack of star power on Arizona, the star power, but even lack of inexperience there for the Texas Rangers. But what it's going to boil down to, in my opinion, and this is the X factor, is the manager. Bruce Bochy over Torey Lovullo, and that's all you need to know. And this is not to knock Lovullo, it's not to knock the job he's done. He's been masterful, he's been stupendous, etc. But I truly believe that when it comes down to the crux of a game, and here's going to be the sticking point if you're a Diamondback fan, look at what you saw there, Game 6 in the the National League Championship Series, where he pulled Merrill Kelly after 5 innings after striking out Trey Turner and Bryce Harper. And there's a dog barking in the background. Not my dog. Right, kids? Just a little shameless plug about my puppy there. But with that being said, Lovullo pulled Merrill Kelly, and for what reason? He was going along fine. He had struck out, I believe, 8 at that time, maybe even 9 at that point, and he pulled him after 5 innings. You think Bruce Bochy's going to do that? Bruce Bochy's going to go by his gut as opposed to the iPad or the analytics sheet, and that's where I think is going to doom Arizona when it's all said and done. I think the Diamondbacks have a good shot to win this series. Why not? They swept the Dodgers. They beat the Phillies down 3-2 to go to Philadelphia. So to me, they're a live dog here. But I think when it's all said and done, the Texas Rangers, as I predicted yesterday, are going to win in 6. But there is a part of me that wants to root for Arizona because they are the underdog. They are a team that, although they won a championship in 2001, and the Rangers have never won a World Series, despite being in back-to-back in 2010 and 2011. But just for baseball's sake, I'm going to root for the Diamondbacks, but I think the Rangers are going to win in 6. And that is it here as I sign off. Thank you so much. I apologize to those who listen to the podcast and wanted a little bit more. Well, here's a little bit more. As I said, we're just a couple hours away from the start of Game 1 of the Fall Classic, which will be in Arlington, Texas. So with that being said, always coming correct, directed, and full effect on everything that's happening in sports. You know the deal. Sports in the blood, it's in the DNA. Please subscribe, like, leave a comment, etc. And as always, people, on the flip, baby.